My ex-business partner sued me, claiming I stole our clients after we split. In court, he said, she took everything. I quietly presented emails showing those clients had left due to his behavior. His lawyer looked crushed as the judge said, "This case is dismissed. I never thought I'd end up in a courtroom, facing off against someone I once called a friend." But life has a way of showing you exactly who people are when money and ego get involved. Let me start from the beginning. A few years ago, I co-founded a business consulting firm with a guy we'll call Mark. We weren't college friends or childhood buddies. We met through work. We had skills that complemented each other. He was great at talking. Charismatic, knew how to sell a pitch. I was the one who made sure we delivered. I handled operations, project management, and basically all the real work that came after he shook hands and closed deals. At first, it worked. We built something solid. A small firm with a handful of clients, mostly mid-size companies looking for help with restructuring, strategy, and scaling. The money was good. We were growing. But then, Mark started changing. The ego problem. Success does strange things to people. Mark had always been confident, but once we hit a certain revenue level, he became unbearable. He started acting like he was the company, like I was just some assistant running around in the background. He stopped preparing for meetings. He'd show up late to client calls, or worse, reschedule them last minute because he had more important things to do. He made huge promises, things we couldn't possibly deliver. Then, when clients started questioning us, he blamed me. The turning point was Greystone Tech, our biggest client. They had been with us for 3 years. The CEO was an old-school, no-bullshit type of guy who valued reliability above all else. One day, they called a meeting. It wasn't the usual, "let's discuss next quarter's strategy" type of meeting. The CEO sat across from us, arms crossed, looking pissed. He didn't waste time. "Mark is making us nervous." He listed off every mistake Mark had made in the past 6 months. Missed deadlines. Ignored emails. Half-assed work. Then came the final blow. "If this continues, we'll have to take our business elsewhere." I tried to fix it. I assured them we would handle things better. After the meeting, I pulled Mark aside and told him this was serious. We were about to lose our most important client. He laughed. "They'll never leave. They need us." 2 weeks later, they left. And after that? More clients started dropping. The breaking point, I saw the writing on the wall. Mark refused to take responsibility for anything. Every problem was someone else's fault. The clients were too demanding. The market was shifting. I wasn't managing things properly. I was done. I told him I wanted out. His response? A smug, "You can't just leave." I reminded him that we had an exit agreement, one we had signed when we first started the company. If either of us left, we could take any new clients we had personally brought in, while the original contracts stayed with the firm. I wasn't looking to take anything from him. I wanted a clean break. I gave a full month's notice, helped transition projects, even offered to help him restructure so he could keep the business running without me. He repaid me by spreading bullshit. He told employees I had abandoned the company. That I was stealing clients behind his back. That I had ruined everything. I ignored it. I walked away. And then? I started my own firm. 6 months after I left, my business was doing well. Better than I expected, actually. A few former clients had reached out, asking if I could take them on as new contracts. Everything was above board. Then one day, I got a letter in the mail. Mark was suing me. The lawsuit claimed I had stolen clients from our old firm, causing financial damage and intentionally sabotaging his business. The amount? $1.2 million. I laughed when I read it. But this wasn't just a petty attempt to scare me. He had gone all in. Hired a high-powered attorney and everything. I wasn't just going to let him walk all over me. I lawyered up. The trial took months to get scheduled, but the day finally came. Mark walked in looking like he was about to win an Oscar. Smug, expensive suit, sitting next to his attorney like this was all a done deal. His lawyer stood up and started talking about how I had intentionally destroyed the company. How I had manipulated clients into leaving. How I had profited off the destruction of a business I co-founded. They made me sound like some criminal mastermind. I didn't react. I just let them talk. Then, my lawyer stood up. She was calm. Unshaken. "Your Honor, we'd like to present Exhibit A." We handed over emails from multiple clients. One from Greystone Tech CEO, Mark's lack of professionalism made it impossible to continue working with the firm. Our decision to leave was entirely due to his actions. Another from a client Mark had personally insulted in a meeting. We have no interest in working with Mark again, regardless of who his partner is. One after another, emails from former clients outlined exactly why they left. Not because of me. Not because I stole them. Because of Mark. His lawyer read through them. His expression went from confident to panic. I watched as Mark's smug face turned red. He started shifting in his seat, whispering frantically to his lawyer. But it was too late. The judge leaned back, sighed, and looked at Mark. Mark's lawyer was struggling. You could see it all over his face. He had walked into that courtroom thinking this was an easy win, that I was going to fold under pressure. Instead, he was holding a stack of emails proving his client was the reason the business failed. Mark, on the other hand, was spiraling. His usual smugness was gone. His jaw was clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. He kept shifting in his seat, tapping his fingers against the table, whispering to his lawyer. The judge turned to him. Mr. Mark, do you have any evidence to refute these claims? His lawyer cleared his throat, straightened his tie, and tried to recover. Your Honor, these are only emails from former clients. They may state dissatisfaction, but that doesn't prove the defendant didn't directly influence their decision. I expected this. My lawyer did, too. She stood up again. We'd like to present Exhibit B. Another document was handed to the judge. This time, it was a spreadsheet. A financial report. It showed a clear timeline of when clients had left, their reasons for leaving, as stated in official correspondence, and the declining revenue of Mark's company months before I even left. It was the kind of hard data that couldn't be explained away. Mark's face drained of color. His lawyer flipped through the report like he was hoping to find a hole in it, but there was none. The judge exhaled, already looking exhausted. He rubbed his temples like he was getting a headache. Mr. Mark, I'll ask again. Do you have any evidence to support your claim that the defendant intentionally took clients from your company? Mark was sweating. His lawyer whispered something to him, but he didn't respond. He was too busy glaring at me like I had personally set his house on fire. He had nothing. But then he snapped. Mark slammed his hands on the table. This isn't fair, he yelled. She walked away from the company and somehow ended up making more money than me. She was supposed to fail. I built everything, and she, his lawyer, grabbed his arm and whispered furiously for him to shut up. The judge held up his hand. Mr. Mark, control yourself. But Mark was beyond logic now. The image he had built in his head. The one where he was the genius businessman and I was the one who ruined things, was falling apart right in front of him. He turned to me, pointing a shaking finger. You think you're smarter than me, don't you? His voice was venomous. You think you can just walk away and take everything with you? I just stared at him. I didn't say a word. Because I didn't have to. The courtroom was silent. Everyone, including his own lawyer, was realizing something very important. Mark wasn't mad because he lost clients. He was mad because I had proven I never needed him. A new threat. Mark's outburst sealed his fate. His lawyer, realizing the damage, stood up quickly. Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess. The judge sighed. You have 10 minutes. Mark and his lawyer walked out of the courtroom together, but I could see the lawyer was furious. He was shaking his head, whispering in sharp tones, but Mark looked dazed. Like he couldn't process what was happening. I finally let out a slow breath. My lawyer leaned in and whispered, he's done. There's no recovering from that. But I wasn't convinced. Mark was many things, arrogant, irresponsible, manipulative. But there was one thing he wasn't. A quitter. And I knew, deep in my gut, that he wasn't going to walk away quietly. 10 minutes later, they walked back in. His lawyer looked defeated, like he was about to cut his losses. But Mark? Mark was smiling. That's when I knew. He had something else planned. His lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client would like to amend his complaint. The judge raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? Mark's lawyer adjusted his tie, trying to look composed. We'd like to introduce a new claim, intellectual property theft. I blinked. What? Even my lawyer looked momentarily stunned before she recovered. Your Honor, this is an obvious last-minute attempt to shift blame. This claim was not in the original lawsuit. But Mark had regained his smugness. He leaned forward, smirking. She stole our company's secrets, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She took our strategies, our methods, everything we built together, and used them to start her own firm. I felt my blood run cold. Because this was a dangerous accusation. It wasn't true, of course. I had built my new business from the ground up, using nothing from the old firm except for my own experience. But proving that in court? That was going to be a whole different battle. The words intellectual property theft hit like a bomb. I knew Mark was desperate, but this? This was a completely new level of insanity. My lawyer tensed beside me. She wasn't rattled easily, but even she knew this was a serious accusation. Unlike the original lawsuit, which was just about money, this new claim could drag out for months, maybe even years. If the judge allowed it, I'd be stuck in a legal nightmare. Mark leaned back in his chair, smirking like he'd just played his trump card. His lawyer straightened his tie. Your Honor, my client is prepared to present evidence that the defendant used proprietary materials from their former business to gain an unfair advantage. I frowned. There was no proprietary material. Our consulting firm didn't have some secret formula or patented method. Everything we did was public knowledge in the industry. Strategies, data analysis, scaling techniques, this was all standard consulting work. But I knew Mark. He didn't need real evidence. He just needed enough bullshit to drag this case out and drain me financially. The judge didn't look pleased. You're bringing a new claim at the 11th hour. That's highly irregular. Mark's lawyer put on his best I'm just doing my job face. We believe it is relevant and necessary to the case. My lawyer stood up immediately. Your Honor, this is a transparent attempt to prolong litigation. They have no real evidence, and they know it. The judge looked between us, tapping his fingers on the bench. Thinking. Mark sat perfectly still, watching. Then the judge sighed. I will allow the claim, provisionally. Mark grinned. I clenched my jaw. The judge continued, however, I expect a preliminary hearing on this matter. If there is no substantial evidence, I will dismiss it immediately. That was something, at least. But I wasn't stupid. Mark wasn't pulling this out of nowhere. He had something planned. The fake evidence. A week later, my lawyer called. Her voice was tight. They just submitted their evidence. I braced myself. What is it? There was a long pause. Then she sighed. Emails. I frowned. What emails? She hesitated. From you. I froze. What? She sent me the files. I opened them immediately. And then I felt sick. They were fake emails. But they were good. Whoever created them knew what they were doing. The emails were supposedly from me, sent during my final month at the old firm. They made it look like I had been emailing clients confidential business strategies, sharing internal reports, and preparing them to leave with me. In one, I supposedly told a client, once I leave, I can offer you the same service at a lower cost. Mark doesn't need to know. I wanted to scream. This was insane. Mark was trying to frame me. I immediately called my lawyer. This is fake. I never wrote any of this. She was already ahead of me. I know. But they look real enough that the court might take them seriously. And that was the problem. It didn't matter that they were fake. It mattered if the court believed them. The hacker twist. I spent the next few days trying to stay calm. I knew the emails were fake. But proving it? That was a different story. I called my old IT guy from the firm, someone I still trusted. I sent him the files, hoping he could find something. A day later, he called back. Yeah, these are fake. And I think I know who made them. I sat up straight. Who? He hesitated. You're not gonna like it. Tell me. He sighed. It was probably our old IT contractor. The guy Mark always hired for security work. My blood went cold. Mark had hired this guy multiple times in the past. He wasn't an official employee, just a freelancer. But he had access to our systems. He had access to my old emails. It all made sense now. Mark had paid him to fabricate evidence. The confrontation. We had to act fast. My lawyer filed a motion demanding the original email logs from my old account. If we could get the raw data, we could prove the emails had been tampered with. Mark's lawyer fought back hard. They tried to delay. They tried to claim it was irrelevant. But the judge wasn't stupid. He ordered the emails to be reviewed. And that's when everything exploded. The moment it all fell apart. A week later, I was sitting in the courtroom, waiting. Mark was annoyed. He had expected a smooth ride, not this much pushback. Then the court-appointed forensic analyst stepped forward. We analyzed the email headers and metadata, he began, adjusting his glasses. It is clear that these emails were altered. Mark's lawyer stiffened. The analyst continued, the timestamps don't match. The email servers don't match. The emails were created on a separate system and then manually inserted into the archives. In short, this is fabricated evidence. Silence. I looked over at Mark. His face was gray. His lawyer, meanwhile, looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and die. Then the judge spoke. His voice was low and deadly. Mr. Mark, did you knowingly submit falsified evidence to this court? Mark froze. For the first time, I saw actual fear on his face. Because now? This wasn't just about money. This was fraud. And fraud? Was a crime. The moment of collapse. The courtroom was dead silent. Mark sat there, his face frozen in something between shock and pure fear. His lawyer had gone stiff, staring straight ahead like he was processing his entire career going up in flames. The judge's eyes were locked on Mark, waiting for an answer. Did you knowingly submit falsified evidence to this court? Mark opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His lawyer jumped in, speaking quickly. Your Honor, my client was not aware of any fabricated documents. The judge cut him off. That's enough. His voice was firm, like he had already made up his mind. Mr. Mark, this court takes fraudulent evidence very seriously. Mark panicked. I could see it all over his face, the way his breathing got shallow, the way his hands clenched into fists. He looked around like he was searching for an escape, but there wasn't one. Because the truth was out. And everyone had seen it. The outburst. Then, Mark snapped. This isn't fair, he exploded, slamming his hands on the table. She was supposed to lose. His voice echoed through the courtroom. I sat perfectly still. Mark turned toward me, his face twisted in rage. You think you're so much smarter than me, don't you? You think you can just walk away, take my clients, and ruin me? I didn't say a word. Because there was nothing to say. Mark wasn't yelling at me because he had lost. He was yelling because I had never needed him in the first place. His lawyer put a hand on his arm, trying to calm him down, but Mark shoved him off. He was unraveling, completely, in front of everyone. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You didn't build anything. I was the one who got us clients. I was the one who made people believe in us. You were nothing without me. That was it. That was the real truth. Mark had never believed I was his equal. He had never seen me as a partner. He saw me as someone who worked for him, someone who should have failed without him. And now that I hadn't, it was eating him alive. The judge had heard enough. He slammed his gavel down. Order in the court. Mark flinched. His face was red, his body shaking. His lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. The judge exhaled slowly, then turned to me. We will take a brief recess before I issue my ruling. The immediate aftermath. As soon as the judge left, Mark stormed out of the courtroom, his lawyer scrambling to catch up. I sat there for a moment, letting out a slow breath. My lawyer turned to me. That was a meltdown. I nodded. But I wasn't relieved. Not yet. I stood up and walked toward the hallway, my mind racing. Then I heard it. The shouting. I turned the corner, and there he was. Mark. He was standing near the exit, yelling at his lawyer. His voice was low and furious, but I caught pieces of it. Fix this. You're supposed to be good at this. What the hell am I paying you for? His lawyer looked exhausted. He ran a hand down his face. Mark, you don't understand. It's over. You submitted fake evidence. You just incriminated yourself. Mark's jaw tightened. No. It's not over. We appeal. We drag this out. His lawyer laughed. Not a happy laugh. A short, tired, almost bitter laugh. Appeal? He looked at Mark like he was a complete idiot. Mark, the judge isn't just going to dismiss your case. He's going to refer it for fraud investigation. Mark froze. His lawyer sighed, shaking his head. Do you understand what that means? You're not just losing the lawsuit. You could be charged with a crime. Mark went pale. For the first time, I saw it. Real fear. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His breathing was uneven. His hands shook. Then, without another word, he walked out. The final verdict. We went back into the courtroom. Mark didn't return. His lawyer sat alone, his posture stiff. The judge came back in, looking completely done with the whole thing. He turned to me. "Ms., my name, this case is dismissed." I let out a slow breath. But the judge wasn't finished. He turned to Mark's lawyer. "I am also referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential fraud charges. This court does not tolerate the submission of falsified evidence." Mark's lawyer just nodded. He didn't even try to argue. Because he knew. It was over. Mark tried to fight it. Of course, he did. He tried to settle behind closed doors, but no one wanted to deal with him. He tried to shift the blame to his IT guy, but the paper trail led right back to him. And in the end, he lost everything. His business collapsed within a year. His reputation was in ruins. No one wanted to work with him. Clients talked. People in the industry heard what happened. And the fraud investigation? It didn't go well for him. He avoided jail time, but he paid massive fines and got barred from running a business for several years. As for me, I kept building. My firm thrived. Clients came to me, not because I stole them, but because I had earned their trust. I think about Mark sometimes. Not because I miss him. Not because I regret anything. But because he taught me something. There are people in this world who will never see you as an equal. People who will convince themselves that without them, you're nothing. And when you prove them wrong, they will self-destruct trying to take you down. Mark lost not because I beat him. Mark lost because he couldn't stand the idea that I didn't need him. And in the end, that's what destroyed him.